Gatorville. Actually, I don't think there's any gators around in these ponds right here. I think they're more out towards the river, I think. I don't have any bug repellent on. I wonder how thick it's going to be here. Nothing so far. I'm sure they'll discover me shortly. Give it a second, give it the test. If they're here, they're going to start attacking pretty quick. I think they're starting to attack. 1 second, have a look at that swamp behind me while I go get some bug spray on. Alright, here we go. There we go. Apparently we're going to Texas next week. It's the word on the street. I'll take everybody with me and show you what I see. Should be interesting and fun. Now, what do we got going on today? Bit of a late day today. This video is going to be up later than normal, but at least I'll get something done here. Now, what do we got? What do we got? That one's just for me. I don't know what the date is on this. Okay, here's one. This is recent, and it says, need help and advice. All right, here we go. Not a bad place to come for that, I don't think, as a group. Now, hello Steve, my name is Mary. I was referred to your channel by a friend of mine, 16-year-old son. I've worked in the medical field my whole life. Had one real bad marriage, and I've never had children. Oh, it's your friend's 16-year-old son. Okay, I got you. Just me all this time. And a couple years ago I retired and I bought a cabin up in the mountains about 30 minutes from town. And I'm a city girl. I was hoping I wasn't biting off more than I could chew. I just wanted to get away from the rat race. The place is fantastic. I love it. I've been here for 2 years now. The strangeness started early last fall. Oh, that sucks. That sucks. There's an old road that leads up the mountain and stops at a nice lookout spot. It's around a mile long, and I walk it about every morning, weather permitting. And one morning, while walking up, I noticed what looked like a wreath of twisted and braided branches hanging from one of the trees. And it was big enough around, 3 feet across, that I should have seen it before. And I wondered who could have put it there. The old road starts at my place. Somebody would have had to come right through my place, and I didn't see anyone. I thought, well, maybe it's a sign that I'm supposed to be here, as I make crafts, knickknacks, and wreaths that I sell at craft shows. Oh wow, no way. It was about 10 feet off the road, so I walked over to it. It was hanging about 6 foot in the air, in the tree. I'm almost 6 foot tall. And the first thing I noticed was how thick the branches were that was used to make it, and how tightly woven they were. Way bigger than the ones I used to make my wreaths with, and I used jigs to bend and shape them with, and still couldn't have got them that tight. The second thing I noticed was it had a real pungent smell. The limbs were fairly still green and looked recently wet with some moisture still sitting in the tightly woven areas. I left it there. The next 3 days, when I would walk by it, I started to come up with ideas on how I could add to it, like putting artificial flowers and things on it. That third night, while sitting on my fully screened-in front porch around 9 p.m., I heard what almost sounded like a very loud wolf call coming from up that old road. Almost a moaning. It scared me to death, so I went inside and turned off all but one light. And the calls continued off and on for around 1 hour. I did not take my walk that next morning. And that night, the same thing, about the same time. Very loud howl slash moan. It was the last half of a full moon, so there was some light, so I stayed on the porch and watched and listened. Then I heard a loud bang come from up higher. Then a bang from up the old road, like somebody hitting a tree with a bat. Hope that wind isn't licking the microphone too bad. Then 2 more bangs came from up the mountain. It was silent for a while, and then I heard a whoop. It come from up on the mountain, and then several more. They seemed to be getting closer to the old road. Then I heard a loud tree limb break. Then it sounded like some kind of garbled, muffled talking coming from up the old road. I'd had enough, so I went back inside. I locked all the doors and turned out all the lights, and pretty much sat there all night, listening and looking out the windows until morning came. I stopped walking up the old road. The howling stopped too. And not long after this, I went into town to have some lunch with an old friend of mine. She brought her 16-year-old son with her. I told them about this, and her son blurted out, "It sounds like Bigfoot." I wanted to come up and check it out. So they followed me back up to my place. Her son started to tell me about all the Bigfoot as we walked up the old road. He started to point out trees stacked in certain shapes and would say, "That's what a Bigfoot does." When we got to where the reef was at, it was gone. But before they left, he gave me your email address and said, "You were the expert I should ask you." Expert? Well, things were pretty calm until recently, and I heard something run by my cabin a couple of times that sounded huge. And something banged on my bedroom wall, right by my head as I slept. I've been feeling watched when I'm outside sometimes, so I got the email out. He left me, and now I'm scared and writing. Should I be worried? Are Bigfoots real? Should I move or get a gun? So many things are going through my mind. Any advice you can give me would be much appreciated. Thank you, Mary. Holy shit. All right, Mary, first off, I really feel for you. One thing about that frustrates me with these truths that go on and gives me the motivation to not quit and not shut up is I'll never forget when I was on a hunting forum years ago, and a man didn't want to post publicly about what had been going on around him and his wife's dream home. Same thing, loved it. And then heard some noises, saw some footprints, and then they saw it ripping across their cattle field screaming, and it ruined everything for them, and they sold their place and left. That makes me angry. But I'm definitely no expert. I think as a group, as a whole here, Mary, everybody here has been feeding off each other for many years on my channel, and sharing their experiences word for word, because unfortunately, Mary, there's been a handful of people who have basically controlled the narrative, the public narrative in a way when it comes to these truths, and they've lied. They've lied about the truth. And they've taken brave people's testimonies and changed them before posting them on their websites or talking about them publicly. And then other people who are persistent about sharing their exact truth, a lot of these so-called big names have even gone to the extreme of attacking them and trying to belittle them and smash on their credibility. It's very sad. So what I'm saying is I'm super stoked you found us as a group, all right? Now, I hope that there goes a tree smashing and falling over behind me. Whatever, shit happens in a swamp. But anyway, as my senses go on alert as normal. But anyway, where was I? Little interruption there. Hopefully many people in the same scenario as you are going to comment in the comment section below this video for you directly, all right? Because I am not an expert, but we are all pretty knowledgeable as a group here at this stage of the game. So, I have experienced the banging on the wall above my head in a cabin when I was probably 19 or 20. And we've probably had, I would guess, hundreds of people have reported the same thing. Whether they're in a camper, or in a house, having banging on the wall right where their head was, or in a camper, in a tent. Somehow these people, these beings know exactly where we are physically inside a building or a camper. But none of these people come up missing that we know of so far. And I don't want to put any unwarranted fright into you. But what would I do, depending on how much you love the place and how much carries on? For me, Mary, everybody's heard me say this dozens of times, I always say out loud, just leave me alone. Leave me alone. I know you're here. You know I'm here. Let's not ruin it for each other. And just leave me alone. I just want to enjoy my time, do what I love to do, safely and at peace. And whereas years ago I used to be a little more vulgar and hard ass, and I'd be throwing in nothing but cuss words with statements of, I'll put as many holes in your head as I can if I have to. So I changed my tune, and now I just say, just leave me alone. So I would strongly suggest you try that. Just when you hear them, you feel their presence, just go outside on that porch and say out loud, just leave me alone. And also, on that same note, there's a lot of people who have rebuked them in the name of the Lord and Jesus Christ, and that has worked. There's no getting out of that pattern. That has worked for possibly hundreds of people as well. What else can you do? I would definitely have a dog. If you live rural, you should have a dog no matter what. Always, always, always. The dog's going to tell you what's up before what's up comes up. And by the reaction of your dog, you'll be able to tell exactly what's possibly outside that door. I would not suggest leaving them food. Don't do it. Do not become a food source and line yourself up to be in a position of making them angry if you don't feed them. Do not leave them food. What else could I say? I don't know. I mean, your question, are they real? They're very real. I've seen them. It's not a belief. It's a knowing. You either have the knowledge or you don't. It's not a belief. Sounds like you're getting the knowledge. And you got the knowledge here from us. Thank God you found the channel. Would I have a gun? Does it me? No matter what's going on, you live rural, you need a gun. Nobody's going to be there in seconds to save you from some kind of a threat. Nobody. So, yeah, go to a local gun shop, go to a local gun club and learn how to use it and get a piece of hardware for safety. It's no big deal. It's just like having a fire extinguisher, right? It's just a piece it's a safety item. 100% have a gun and be familiar with it and how to use it. You got to keep safe in this world, right? And would I suggest shooting one of these beings if you've seen one? Nope. If they're threatening you, 100%, like anything else. It's just like a bad human being, right? Somebody's coming into your home, your rural home, to hurt you. It's time to defend yourself, right? It's no different. What else? I think that's about all I can say. You know, and if stuff does ramp up, you get motion lights, bright motion lights put on all four corners of your cabin, and as well, or you can see if somebody can hook you up with some very powerful infrared lights that shine at all four corners of your property. And I'll admit it, I've used trail cameras when I've been camping by myself in a tent, and I just bounce trail cameras all the way around my tent. It seems to work too. But that's about all I can say at this stage of the game. And I'm not an expert, but I can tell you with 100% confidence it's very real, and you're experiencing it right now. So, that's about all I have. And I wish you luck. And email us back anytime, or even leave your number. We can talk, or you can even come onto the channel and talk with me and have a conversation about it for everyone to hear. Maybe, possibly one day in the future, once I'm home. And if it gets bad, and I guess one more quick one I have, and this is for everybody. This is an interesting reply for everyone, I'm sure, but I would go with your gut instinct on anything you do in life, right? Be in tune with your inside gut feeling. And if your guts say you're in danger and you don't want to be there anymore, just sell the place and leave. And go flash up, go find another dream place somewhere else. It's just not fair to be in misery, to live in misery and terror. It's not fair, right? So, but anyway, there you go. I hope that helps. And please give us updates on what's going on. And I know of another person, I can probably forward you his email if this persists, because he had the same thing going on in his ranch. He's an outfitter, and I think he's come to terms with it. They're still at their home and everything's going fine. And maybe I could possibly see if you could talk to him if things persist or pick up speed, okay? There you go. There you go. I've answered the best I could. And please email us back and give us an update. And make sure you're okay, all right? And good luck. I'm super glad you found us. Now, what's this one? I believe there's 2 emails in here, I think. Yeah, there's 2. I found one email is titled Jim's second email. So I Googled his name and I found 2. He did a search in my inbox. So here's the first one. Jim's first email to me. Good day. I hope you're doing well. Feel free to use my story or part of it, as it runs a little long. And it was late fall, early winter of 1980 in the rural mountains of North Carolina, near the Virginia-Tennessee border, in an area called Rowan's Creek. I was 14. I spent the majority of those years hunting and fishing. In my 14 years, I was never over a 2-minute walk from the woods. God, hold on. Get out of my eyeball. Sorry. Living in a rural setting without siblings left me 2 options. Number 1, sit on my ass, or number 2, get out in the woods. I loved the outdoors and spent every hour I could hunting or fishing. And I had no fear of the woods. I would walk 45 minutes in total darkness to my deer stand, hunt all day, and return home after I could no longer see 10 feet in front of me. Sounds like my story. I never gave it a second thought. The woods were my private heaven. Now, little did I know, they would soon become my worst nightmare. I came home from school with time to grab the Beagle, hunting vest, and trusty 410 single shotgun. I ran across the road down my great uncle's driveway, turned left up the old sawmill landing. I released Katie. She started her Z pattern, nose to the ground, with an occasional whoop to assure me where she was. Katie was trained to circle the rabbit and push it back to the hunter. Unlike many dogs that you would have to follow, I climbed up on a pile of old slabs to secure a better view, probably 4 to 5 feet high. And she was cutting back and forth through mature white pines, between 30 and 40 feet high. They had been planted on nice straight rows after the Depression ended, roughly 1933. I mentioned the straight rows so you can picture how the setting sun's light would light up the open areas. And I could see Katie crossing back and forth, and occasional whoop. So very relaxing. Then out of nowhere, Katie yelped as if she was being hurt. We've all heard dogs in pain and scared. A long, continuous crying yelp. And I focused my sight in her area about 80 yards out. Nothing. Then her cries became further away. And as she ran away, cries that went out of earshot, crying out the entire time. Now I could no longer hear her. My eyes never left the tall pines. And then I saw something moving through the rows. The sun was at an angle to my right, and I could only see its shadow as it came closer. A bear, a horse, Uncle Rex? 70 yards, 60, 50. The landing of the old sawmill was about 30 yards long, circled with 4 to 5 foot high slab piles. I last saw it to my right at about 40 yards. I climbed off the slabs to my left, and this allowed me to see up the rows, as the slabs blocked the sun to my right. I eased along the slabs, moving closer to where I'd seen it. I swung out wider so I could see around the slabs at the end. And then my world changed forever. The next 20 seconds takes 10 minutes to explain. Time moved in slow motion. And as I can recall, every step I took and each eye blink, a horrid smell engulfed the area, almost like a musk warm yet piercing. I'm sure you know what I mean by musk, if that makes sense. Every hair on my neck stood up. My senses were in overdrive. I wanted to throw up. I knew I was being watched, and I knew it was close. I turned to my right, and just on the other side of the slabs was Bigfoot. 15 yards away, I could see him from his waist up. His head was semi-pointed. No hair on the forehead, cheeks, or nose. Wide nose, thin lips, square teeth with deep dark eyes. His shoulders were frickin' huge, the size of basketballs. The chest was defined, and any bodybuilder. The chest was defined, I think he meant as any bodybuilder. Arms went past his knees, and they were 27 to 29 inches thick. He had some guns. The hair color was dark, kind of gray/brown, and I froze. I told myself, there's no such thing as Bigfoot. I looked down, rubbed my eyes, and when I looked back up, he was still there. I rubbed my eyes again, and I dipped my head down to an angle. Still there. And at this moment, I turned and ran maybe 10 yards, and again I said, no such thing. I stopped, turned around, and he stepped up on the slab pile. Oh my God. It was 10 feet tall. Shoulders around 4 feet wide. Thighs were probably 38 to 40 inches thick. And I'd say it weighed 700 to 800 pounds. That's it. It is real. I threw my gun to my shoulder, and then I thought, I'll only make this thing mad. I lowered the .410 to my waist, and keep in mind, I was looking this creature in the eyes. And when I lowered my gun, time stood still. I could hear him breathing. And this may sound crazy, but I never felt threatened. The eyes were firm, but I didn't see evil. I leaned hard to my right so the setting sun could be hidden behind a large pine tree behind him. And he leaned his head to the other side and gave a light exhale. Game over. When he moved, I turned and ran through the thorn bushes, down the hill, jumped halfway over the creek, landing in the middle. I tripped coming out the other side, falling on my rear, just in time to see him following me down the bank. I could see my house 100 yards to go. I began screaming, "Mom! Mom!" I jumped over the barbed wire fence, catching my boot just on the tip, just enough to trip me up, just enough to turn my head and see him stop at the creek. My mother heard my screams and was on the porch at the top of the stairs. I came flying up the steps. My jacket was torn to shreds by the bushes. My face is covered in scratches, and Mom said, "You're white as a ghost. What happened?" About the time she asked, this creature began a blood-curdling scream as it paced back and forth along the creek, just in the shadows of the pine trees. 10 to 15 minutes of pacing and screaming. It stayed there until well past dark, and Mom kept asking, "What did you do? What did you make mad?" And needless to say, I didn't sleep that night. The next day I came home. My mother says, "Get your gun and get up there and find Katie." She never came home. "You need to get back on that horse." What? It was probably a wild boar. And if you don't go back in the woods today, you'll let fear win and never go back. So I grabbed my .410 and out the door I went. I didn't make it 4 steps down. Blood-curdling death scream. My mom even said, "Stop and get back in here." You can see the shadow of this creature strutting back and forth about 20 feet back under the pine trees. After about 5 minutes, my great uncle called the house. Mom answered. He asked what the hell was wrong with me and what was I yelling and screaming about. She informed him of what was occurring, and he left it at that. And that creature paced back and forth until dark, and he would only yell when I came out. This went on for the next 2 days, but only when I was there. Finally, Saturday came, and I was looking forward to catching up on lost sleep. Nope. At a little after sunrise, a knock on the door. In walks my uncle, my grandfather, along with his 2 brothers, one of which owned the sawmill. The same great uncle that had called earlier in the week. "We need you to come with us. Why in the hell did you tear up the sawmill? Uncle Rex is good to you. and you repay him by throwing shit everywhere? We went together to see the sawmill, and there were slabs all over the place. The entire landing area was covered. I got one more ass chewing until I pointed out the 20-inch bare footprints. The 300-pound chunks of stumps thrown around, and the 22-foot steel I-beam guide for the mill tossed on his side. They looked at each other, walked around with hands on hips, and then across their chests, and then came back. Dick, we think it's best if you stay out of the woods for a while. No argument from me. Over the next couple of weeks, my great uncles would drive to the old sawmill about 30 minutes before dark. Then I noticed their truck lights would come on from time to time throughout the night. I never heard the scream again. Well, not far from the sawmill, and not for 38 years. I'll never know why it screamed, why it paced, or why it came back that week. If it had wanted to get me, it had me at the sawmill. It never ran after me, it just followed me. End of story. What are your thoughts? Your personal story stands the hair up on my neck. I think there's some of us who believe we're attached to nature, have our sixth sense working, whereas most people have had it bred out of them. I know when I'm being watched, and I know what I smell. I have no doubt that these beings know who can see them or sense them. I've had numerous tree knocks, too many to remember. I've had 6 to 7 rocks thrown near me, different times, and even had a rock tossed at me in my tree stand. I think rock throwing is just a warning. Not to hit us, maybe even sometimes just playing. And I feel these beings around me. I feel no threat from 99% of the time, but every now and then, I get the feeling of get the hell out of here. As if some of these creatures might not be as forgiving if we walk up on them. I could go on for hours. My wife and I live in rural North Carolina mountains about a mile from Tennessee on 100 acres, mostly wooded, and we respect all wildlife. We only kill what we're going to eat. And try to see that the animals have food during the winter. And I think they know our hearts. They know we're never going to shoot at them or bring in news crews to try and film them, etc. I'm sure you have hundreds of stories also. Not all encounters last 3 minutes. Most are just simple tree knocks, rocks, smells, and the knowing that they are watching. That uneasy feeling. I don't expect you to read this novel. Maybe you'll like the main story. I have some pictures also, just got to find where I put them. I sent you another email with the pictures. Sorry, long-winded. I ease up on the next report. P.S. I can't believe you didn't leave that meth head under some stump for grizzly bait. What a scumbag. Best wishes, Richard. Okay, there's no pictures with this. I'm going to have to do an email search again and see if there's an email with photos. That's a lot, isn't it? That was the first email. And here's another one. Same man. Good evening, Steve. I hope all is well. And after watching your video about the man fearing for his children, as the Sasquatch seemed focused on his kids' play area, I've decided to tell you about the evening that changed my love of the outdoors. It was deer season, December '82. Still lived at the same house where 2 years earlier I had my face-to-face encounter with a Sasquatch. And since that encounter, I'd pretty much stayed out of the woods, except for hunting with my brother or uncle, never alone. I just turned 16 and picked up my first vehicle, a 74 CJ5 4x4. A Remington Odd 6 pump action, no more single shot 410 for me. And needless to say, I felt as big and tough as anything on the planet. And at that time, the 30-06 as well might as well have been a cannon in my mind. Ah, the joy of foolish youth. Okay, back to it. Feeling confident, I began deer hunting again. I still didn't like the dark, but I knew that my 30-06 could take care of any animal out there. I'd purchased a male Doberman, Butch, shortly after my first run-in with the Sasquatch, and had spent 2 years with Butch by my side, and he even slept right beside me. And needless to say, Butch was my best friend, and never a day passed that we didn't wrestle, play fetch, or run the fields. Butch was over-attentive. And when I went deer hunting, he would sit with me in blinds or lay at the base of the tree where I had my stand. He became a problem after I shot a little 6-pointer. his first kill. After I hit the deer with a double lung shot, the deer made his way off a steep hill about 60 yards. And after finding the deer, I began dragging it out with the 90-pound Dobie pulling against me. Finally made it to the top of the hill, only to have a half a mile straight back down to my house. During the pull downhill, I slipped, and the deer came on top of me. And Butch lost his mind, attacking the dead deer, which he felt was attacking me. Long story short, after this, Butch hated deer and wouldn't allow me to hunt without chasing the deer as they approached. Butch was now left at home to wait my return during deer season. I'd finished lunch and started my 2-mile hike to a favorite isolated field surrounded by hardwoods and persimmon trees. I arrived in time to sit for a couple of hours, watching a few does browse and hoping for old mossy horns to step out. And about 30 minutes before dark, I heard something coming hard and fast. I readied myself for the huge buck to step into range. And there was Butch. He paid no attention to the browsing does. He circled me while whining and bumped me repeatedly, and this kept up for about 10 minutes. The does ran off, and he refused to lay down or obey commands. And I got so mad, so fed up, I got up and proceeded back towards home. And keep in mind, Butch was still whining and acting crazy while we walked. We made it about half a mile to a hard curve in the old logging road. I could bear left, walk up the mountain, hit the ridge, and save 30 minutes by walking through the woods or continuing the logging road. And it was 10 minutes before dark. Just enough light to get up the hill, hit the fence line, and walk home in the open woods by moonlight. I turned left and began up the hill. At that very moment, the air turned thick. That smell of rotting flesh mixed with feces and piss filled my nose. It came flashing back at 1,000 miles per hour. And again, time stood still. And a loud, low grunt yelp drew my attention to a fallen tree stump 40 yards straight up the hill. Just enough light to see a 2-legged figure at the stump. No running this time. I had 90 pounds of teeth and a .30-06, and I yelled, "Sick him, Butch." Butch tore up the hill, and as quickly as he went up, he came down yelping like a scared puppy, and he flew past me. I had a .30-06, and I took a few steps toward this being, and I raised my rifle. And at that moment, I felt something pulling my leg. Butch had sunk his teeth into my camos and was pulling with everything in him, still whining. He'd let go only long enough to bark cry at the thing above us. Butch was terrified, and his bark was of terror. I looked back up, raised my rifle, trying to remain balanced while Butch yanked at me. Then this creature yanked the stump out of the ground and hurled it in my direction. The stump was bigger than me, and it crashed and rolled within 10 yards of me. I know this sounds crazy, but I felt then and still today, he didn't intend the stump to hit me. And as the stump stopped, this creature let out a yell straight out of the bowels of hell. And at that moment, my .30-06 felt like a BB gun. This 10-foot creature stood with his arms in a come-and-get-some stance and began growling. He began a growling chant yelp. Butch was now running. I heard him go out of sight down the logging road. Yelp, 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 gone. Now there I stood alone 30 yards from it. I lowered my rifle and began backing up, never letting it out of my sight. I felt the old road under my feet and began walking towards home, watching this thing shadowed my steps the entire time, knowing I only had maybe 10 minutes of light left. And I had over 1.5 miles to go, and 3/4 of this would be on the old abandoned logging road surrounded by 30 to 40-foot trees. From the time I smelled the air turn bad to where I now stood, it had taken maybe 15 to 20 seconds, though it seemed to be 15 minutes. No one can imagine how time slows to a millisecond crawl, as if a camera running 30,000 feet per second is put into slow motion. 30,000 FPS, frames per second, is put in slow motion. And as I kept walking, I began shaking, almost uncontrollable, and I could hear him breathe. I heard him chatter his freaking teeth. And at this point, he knows he's got me, and I'm doing exactly what he wants. I'm in 100% panic mode, and every sound, every grunt, tree snap is meant to increase my fear. 5 minutes passed. I know I'm closing in on the intersection near the old way station, and the intersection will bring another logging road from his direction. I feel he will hit that old roadbed and come straight at me. We come to the old way station. I can barely see it now, and he steps out onto the roadbed. I can see his dark figure standing in the middle, his shoulder damn near as wide as the road. At that very moment, I decide when he comes at me, I'll empty my 220 grain brush busters in his chest. I stop, take a deep breath, and try to control the shaking. I bring the rifle to half raised, just touch my shoulder. I have to close my eyes, trying to force myself to adjust the last minute of light, trying to see the figure 30 yards away, and he steps into the woods and comes back up beside me. We begin the walk again. This time there's no seeing him, and it's dark. The moon is too low to break through the tall trees, and I'm 200 yards from the state road. I know the right of way will be wider, and the road runs dead east. I will have moonlight to at least see where I'm walking, and maybe a car will travel my way. I make it to the state road, and he is right beside me, 20 to 30 yards. If I stop, he stops. When I move, he moves. I pick up my pace. I never run. I don't dare make enough noise that I can't still hear him walking. That sounds familiar to me. My uncle was a sniper in Nam and has spent 5 years teaching me to stalk, teaching me little tricks, always telling me to be quiet and use your ears as much as your eyes. It's amazing what goes through your head. The grunts and yelps have become almost zero. He's still breaking limbs, and right beside me, I can just see my great uncle's house, and I can see the TV. Flashes in his window. Another 200 yards and the woods will end. It opens up to a grazing land for the cattle. My eyes have adjusted. The moon has risen quietly a bit over the past hour, and I can see the open field. And yes, the cattle are grazing along the fence at the edge of the steep bank above my head, and I can make out their shadows in the moonlight. And at last the woods ends, and it's an open field from here out. Surely he'll stay in the woods. Just 10 more minutes. Nope. I notice the cattle become nervous, then they turn and flat out run, and that damn thing is walking in the field, just to my left and behind me, probably 20 feet above the road up the steep bank. Excuse me. I can't see him. The twilight's in front of me, so I'm sure I stick out brightly to him. 100 yards, I can see our kitchen light bouncing off the leaves, and I stop and I turn in his direction, and he keeps coming. Black as night, stinking and grunting. I raise my rifle and he stops and starts the teeth chatter. So by now the tears are flowing and I'm shaking again. And I call him a mofo in a voice that was probably only loud enough for me to hear, but it was all I could muster up. I turn towards home and I feel the gravel of our driveway under my feet. I'm shaking so bad I can hardly walk up the steps. I get to the door in time to hear that blood-curdling yell about 50 yards away, directly behind the house. And he had followed me to the effing door. And as I walked in, my mother said, "Not again." She sees by my tears and deathly white complexion, along with uncontrollable jerking, the answer is yes, again. As I calmed down, my mother said, I was just getting ready to come to look for you. There is something wrong with Butch. He won't come out from under the steps. Bigfoot or not, I headed outside to check on my best friend, and he was under the porch in the back corner, in a space not big enough for a good-sized cat. He's in a ball, shaking and whimpering. I crawled towards him to get him out, and he snapped at me. My friend was scared. It took a few days before he came out, and he was never the same dog. He didn't live a month. Holy shit. That's crazy. That's creepy. The next day, my great uncle gave gave me an ass chewing for running his cattle that night. What the hell was I doing? What was I thinking? I had caused one of his cattle to fall, and I needed to come over and help him remove her from the field. And as we pulled up to the scene, this steer was torn, and an entire ham was missing. He looked at me and said, "Must be a damn panther. I heard one yell last night." And I just said, "It wasn't no cat." We moved a couple months later, and it would be 3 years before my next meeting with old Stinky. I truly believe there is no hunting these creatures. They hunt you, and they are well advanced. This creature knew what he was doing, and he could have snapped me right up at any moment. We are in their playground, in their homes. They are in control, and we are in the woods. And I had a different view of the Mighty 30-06 after that day. And there you go, end of email. I'm gonna have to, hope there's enough info on this. I gotta find this guy's email. It's not on here, damn it, I don't know why. And I gotta find, he's got an email with pictures, so I don't know what they are. Listen to those noises. Isn't the noises great down here? I love it. Probably a good thing, right? Hearing noise out here. I don't get it. Not yet. I don't understand why they do that to people. They don't have to. And it's funny how many people say, we're in their home. Now we're all here together. This is all big one home for all of us. We're all here together. I'm tired of, on a side note, I'm getting a little tired of what's going on with mainstream, trying to make us feel guilty to be human all the time, that we're not supposed to be here, we're not supposed to be there, we're intruders. We're the cause of all things bad. I'm over it. We are good. The majority of us are good. And we were born here, and we live here, and this is our home, period. We belong here. You know? Time for everybody to start chanting that shit. But anyway, I haven't had anybody paralleling me yet, I don't think. Even when that thing, that person, that being, whatever you want to call him, was right there on that rock looking at me and then ducked down behind the rock. And that was the longest walk out of the forest of my life. And that grown-in road was a lot more narrow than this road, bush, country road I'm on right now. Not a road, it's just road in the bush. 2-track, whatever you call it. And the bushes were thick on either side of the road from me. I don't know, I mean, it was hard enough. It was hard enough walking out for me in the dark, trying to go as slow as I could, listening, because I couldn't see shit. I just wanted to be able to hear whoever it was. I wanted to be able to hear if they could run, if they're going to go past me and try to jump me up ahead on the road, or even come straight at me, whatever. I couldn't run, just like this man mentioned. There's no running. You start running in the dark, even in daylight, unless you can see everywhere around you. If you start running, you're not going to hear shit. You're not going to hear anything. ABCs, always be calm, right? ABCs, always be calm. Anyway, I don't know how long I've been sitting here, but it feels like I've read quite a bit, and I got a lot of stuff I want to do. I've been trying to intentionally make the best video clips I can while I'm here. I did that yesterday. See what I can come up with, just to throw a few, and I guess you would have seen them already, because I'm planning on using what I videoed yesterday for today's video. But I'm going to go back and get that done. And then I think tonight we're going out. We're going out in the dark tonight into the woods with all our thermal equipment and see what comes. No more trees got knocked over. Not that it got knocked over, I'm quite certain it fell by natural causes. Anyway, and Mary, I hope you email us an update, please, if you would, if you could. Keep us posted on what's going on, and maybe even we can talk about it later. We're not going to forget about you. And that's about it for now. So, share my story at howtohunt.com. Alright? Get your truth shared. Word for word. And I will be back. I'd imagine I'll be back tomorrow. See you in a bit.